Hey, welcome to another typology interview. We have Michelle. How's it going?
Hi, it's going pretty good. How about for you?
Yeah, I just commented like you put the ENFP with a question mark there.
Yeah.
Like, cool.
Well, I'm not sure what kind of ENFP I am in the OP system. I'm still
Right.
like trying to figure that out. I bet if I took the class, I'd probably be able to actually figure it out to like really see the difference between play lead and consume lead. But I know that I'm sleep last for sure.
Okay. Really? That's
Yeah.
interesting. Because
Why?
some sleep last know it. Like they just know they're sleep last. And then
Mm.
other sleep last, they're like, I'm sleep first.
I definitely I have to make conscious effort to do any processing of anything going on inside my mind. I have to make conscious effort for because I will ignore it for like months on end.
That's weird because like any DOMs usually report that they're constantly in their head, in
Oh,
their,
I'm always in my head, but I'm not processing what's going on in my head.
what's
My
the
mind is
difference?
going so fast that like I don't have time to take stock of what I'm thinking. It's just like I'm thinking, I'm saying, I'm thinking, I'm saying, and I never I struggle to like actually take stock of all these things that I've come up with. And like
Huh. So what's the difference between like processing and thinking and generating ideas
Well, I
for
think
you?
everyone thinks and generates ideas all the time. I mean, that's like what the mind's there to do, isn't
What
it?
the NE mind does, maybe.
I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start where you got started in typology.
Well, when I was 16, I had just started, well, I guess I was 17. I had just gone to college and,
Nice guy, nice
just
guy.
meeting a lot of friends. And one of the guys that I was getting close to, we were like chatting a lot. And he was like, look, I found this thing. I'm an INFJ. Like, I want to see what your type is. Take the test. And I took the test and like, I got ENFP, but everything was like 45, 55. So it was like right down the middle on everything. But I mean, I
Oh wow.
probably put mostly neutral answers anyway. But I read the description. I was like, oh, wow, that's me. Okay. And I just kind of ran with it. Um, didn't really do that much more other than tell all my friends to take the test because I was like, I need to know what everyone's personality type is.
Right.
And then in the last few years, I've gotten into like the cognitive functions, what it actually means. I've questioned my type a lot in that time. There was a while I thought I was an INFJ. There was a while where I thought I was an ISTJ. um, but I feel like I've settled on ENFP, but I'm willing for someone to convince me that I'm wrong, but I just haven't no one's been able to convince me like in a way that I feel is correct, but
Mm-hmm. Why do you think who's sort of said you were not ENFP?
well, when you have a YouTube channel
Yeah,
where you
everyone.
talk about type, everyone tells you that you're wrong
Right.
about everyone's type, including
Who
your
said that
own.
you were right even?
A lot of people have said that I'm right because they're like, wow, you're such a stereotype ENFP, blah, 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 blah. And then there's other people that are like, you're an ISFJ or like, you're an
Right.
ENFJ. And I'm like, okay, is that so?
Right. I get that too sometimes as well. So
Yeah.
let's see.
Uh,
Um
if people saw your emails, they would know right away you're an ISTP.
oh really?
One
Okay.
sentence. This is what it
One
is.
sentence. Yeah.
To the point. I like it.
Okay. um so when did you start your YouTube channel then?
Well, originally I had started making videos a couple of years ago, probably like the beginning of 2017. And I made a few videos. It wasn't really
Someone
gaining
typed you here.
traction.
We have Sheila
Huh?
that typed you. Sorry to interrupt.
Thanks, Sheila. Yeah, so in
Good.
like early 2017 I started, but I only did it for a couple months because I wasn't gaining any subscribers. I got really discouraged. I gave up. Um,
Mhm.
And then I got back into it once I moved into the house I'm living in here. So like about a year ago, I got back into it and like actually, tried.
Yeah. And you're putting out videos, you're editing them, you're like putting in the work. Not like me, I'm just throwing up an interview.
Yeah. I'm doing a lot of
Right.
work. I used to think a lot about like my videos and if it's something that like in the long term is going to be good, I would be like, am I actually going to like this? Am I going to agree with what I said 2 months from now, 2 weeks from now? Are people going to like tell me everything that's wrong with me? Yeah, so
They will.
yeah. You just have to accept it. And at this point, I just like, I'll say in my videos, tell me I'm wrong, go for it. Like, all right,
Yeah.
that's all my comments, anyways.
So just as a prep thing before the interview, I saw one of your last videos where you were saying about people saying you're wrong and arguing about stuff, and you had a whole rant about that.
Yeah, because I feel like this community can get really toxic and it frustrates me because there's so much to learn. There's so much that we can actually like gain from each other and from the information that's out there. But all these people getting confused about everything or thinking that they know everything and telling other people that they don't. It's just very frustrating to be a part of that when you just want to like be free and just learn and talk about it and not have a bunch of judgment on you, but you know, then the judgment comes.
So yeah, so we have Andrew here who said that you might be a decider.
A single decider, that would be like FI
either
or
IP or EJ. Right.
What makes you say that? That's interesting.
So like right now you were just talking about judging people, but you were also talking about freedom. So let's get into that a little more. So like, are you always looking for freedom? Is that something that is like a theme throughout your life?
Yeah, not as much now that I'm older. I mean, I guess it goes back and forth, but like, especially when I was younger, I just like wanted to be able to do what I want. I don't like when other people are like, you have to do something a very specific way, blah, 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 blah. This is a hard question to answer though, because I feel like I'm like guarding myself against what everyone's expecting.
Right.
And I'm like trying to keep that into account because anything I say can or will be used against me. So it's hard to be like honest because I'm thinking ahead of what I'm saying. And
okay.
yeah.
Sorry. No,
okay,
no, it's good. It's good that you're honest. So like, are you do you feel like you're gathering concepts? Is that something that rings true with you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm always like trying to learn new things. Whenever I get an idea, I want to like delve into it. I don't always because there's so many things out there that you might want to learn about that you have to like restrain it. And honestly, in the last couple of years, I've been really practicing restraining that side of me because I knew that it was like keeping me from actually getting things done. So like even a year ago today, I used to spend 8 hours a day watching YouTube, watching information about MBTI. I would have it while I'm working, just playing in the background, listening to a bunch of videos. And I just like wasn't getting a lot of the things that I wanted to get done because I was doing that. So I've like been really focusing on planning things out so that I have the freedom to do what I want in the moment. So like having an idea of where I want to go, having an idea of what's going to like take me off track and what's not going to take me off track.
Yeah. It's just a little observation, but I'm seeing a little bit of double observing. I don't know if that'll stay like that because everyone can do everything, right?
Right.
Are you worried about the government?
I mean, sometimes, yeah. Who wouldn't worry about the government? Like they have so many things that they can that they can take stock of. But honestly, I see it as mostly a good thing. It's just like who's doing it, right? Because some people can have good intentions with it, some people can have bad, and like, yeah, you can worry about who's got control over you, but in the end, like, I don't know.
Yeah, you're bringing it back to the people somehow. Sorry, I'm just calling it as I see it. Anyways, I'm just gonna give some feedback. I'm seeing feminine feelings from you.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and I think I saw some masculine SI when you corrected like the 16 versus 17. Like that was important to correct that.
Oh yeah,
right.
I definitely. Ever since I knew what masculine SI is and feminine SI is, I'm like, masculine SI for sure.
Right. Okay, there you go. So that would be feminine any then. Do you find it's hard to stay on topic? Does your mind often wander? Do you have like that ADD sort of thing going for you?
Oh yeah. Well, and I have severe ADD already. Like, I don't know if it's genetic or whatnot. All me of my siblings have ADD. So there's definitely that aspect.
We have a question from 123, I guess that's how you say it. What are the main reason for your shift to creating rather than consuming?
Well, I like to create a lot, and I've always liked writing. And in 2016, I had an idea for a story that I was very interested in. It's basically like this intense sci-fi series that it was only supposed to be one book, but then I realized I couldn't get everything into one book, and then I realized the only way I'm going to get a series is if I actually take the time to focus on creating and stop myself from consuming. Because if I ever want to finish, I'd probably be like 10 years from now before I get the first one done if I kept on the path that I had been on, which is just like constantly gathering new information, constantly like changing the way that I had the book set up, constantly like messing with things. And it's just not healthy to do that, because if I ever want to be successful, I have to control myself in a way.
Yeah. Do you often do you like things to help people, to get people, like get things working for people, to, I don't know, help people with their computers or with moving or stuff like that? Is that something you feel responsible to do? I don't, like is a bad word, more like feel responsible.
Well, at work, I can use that as an example. At work, one of the things that I do is I'm a back office administrator, which is like fancy talk for I do all the paperwork. And I hate the way that the systems are set up. And I do feel like if no one else is going to do it, I better do it kind of mentality about like fixing the way that the systems are, because there's a lot of like inefficiencies with the systems that we have. And I know that a lot of people aren't doing them or doing them correctly because of the way that it's set up. I realize that people will be looking at the systems and thinking about, they might not even be thinking. They're probably just like using the systems, and people are inefficient as heck. They always make mistakes. So you have to fix the system for the people. And you can sit here all you want and say, you got to train the people, you got to get them so that they do things right. But ultimately, people are going to be lazy no matter what you do. But you can make a system that takes advantage of people's laziness and makes it as least likely for mistakes as possible.
Right.
So that's what I try to do.
Are you responsible for the system?
Yeah. I make a lot of forms, and I constantly like change the order that they're in to try to make them as like easy to fill out as possible. And like, there's this.
Wow, that's a lot of SI. Okay.
Yeah, I have to for my job because
organizing the sensory.
Yeah, and I think I overcompensate at work, and I do that more because I know that I can be really all over the place, and I want to be taken seriously. So I think I like overcompensate in the workplace to try to make myself seem valuable.
Right.
Because otherwise I'd just be like generating ideas constantly, and I'd never actually make anything happen. And again, it's all the self-growth that's been happening in this period of time, these last few years, since like I've really put focus on the organizing side of my mind. In the last few years, my work has made me have like an outlet for focusing on organizing, which has helped me practice and help me work on it.
Mm-hmm. Are you aware of the kind of things you like? Are you aware of your values? How things rank, how ideas rank around you? Maybe especially when you're consuming, are you aware of what's more important when you're consuming and less important?
No, what's important and what's not important often disappears until after. It's normally in self-reflection mode that I can recognize whether or not something was good or whether or not something was bad.
Yeah, it's a double feminine consume, at least if those are your functions.
Mm-hmm. I know that often I will get in a zone where I'm either like creating a whole lot or I'm consuming a whole lot, and I won't think about whether or not I like it. And then after, I'll watch it and I'll be like, wow, I put all this work into it and I hate it because it's not going to get it's not going to get across the point that I want, or I said something completely wrong, or I don't believe in what I've just said, like, because I'm giving some kind of, because like I used to do a video thing for my work. It was called iNews, and we would like give the weekly news to everybody at the site. And we would just come up with ideas, and I would just be like, okay, let's run with them. Let's do them. And then it would be like, after we're almost done, I'm like, wait a second, should we have put all that work into there?
Mm-hmm. Do you how are you with people? How are you with seeing how people work? How are you interacting with them? Do you get self-conscious around them, nervous?
Honestly, I feel very self-assured with what I can do in a workplace environment. And in my current position, well, I've always had this like mentality that like I'm here to be the best that I can be, and I'm going to work as hard as I can because whatever I learn at work, I can use outside of work. I can use these skills somewhere else. So that is how I approach my workplace. And I quickly moved from like being on the phones to being an evaluator like in 3 months. And then from being an evaluator to being a trainer in a few more months. And then from being a trainer to being in the position I'm at now. And although it sounds like it's just all boring paperwork, a lot of what I do is like go to meetings, and I have to run meetings, and I have to get people to do things for me. And I have to, I get to assert my opinion a lot. And what I personally like to do is to just come up with ideas and let other people decide if they actually want to follow through with them or not. That's an ideal situation, but oftentimes I am forced to make the decision myself. But I'll often come into a meeting and be like, hey, we could do this or we could do that. Or, you know, what do you guys think? And then we come up with something, and I try my best to work on it immediately. Otherwise, I'll come up with a new idea and I'll never get the original idea done.
What about like validation and stuff? Or is that something you're actively seeking? Do you enjoy it when it comes? Is it something that's in the back of your mind?
Validation. You mean like people saying good job, that kind of validation?
Is that something that you're chasing actively, to like always have people saying you did a good job? Or
no, I want to make work easier for everybody. And if I can do that, I don't care if they give me some validation for that, because ultimately it'll be running more smoothly and it'll be a better situation. We'll have more room. So if we have everything organized, we have more room to look after the people, and we have more room to be humans than if we're just sitting here and we're all piled up with all this paperwork and we're constantly doing all this stuff that's taking away from our time to like actually help the people that are working with us. That's really what I want. I don't really care too much if people say thank you for it or whatever. I mean, yeah, it's nice. But ultimately, I just want, you know, to give my ideas and for my ideas to become a reality.
we have Jester's Court that says you're a cut and dry ENFP.
Well, thanks. I don't know. Some people think I'm an INFP. I've definitely been told INFP quite a few times. I can come off as an introvert to a lot.
Maybe I saw something on his channel a little bit. Maybe you can tell us about the he's been examining how people look, like based on facial features.
Oh,
and
really?
Stuff. Based on that, you can tell what quadra they're in and stuff like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I would really like to learn more about visual typing. I know that NEIs are a thing and SEIs are a thing. So like, I have definitely seen, like I used to earlier on in my videos, I would watch like zoomed in on my eyes and I'd be like, oh my God, Michelle, like stop moving your eyes around. You need to like look at the camera.
Right.
But SE is just like, do you guys know Love Lou? From
Luann, right?
Yeah. So I hung out with her last March, and like the difference in how we approach eye contact was just intense. Like she would just be like looking at you, observing your whole face, watching you intently, paying full attention to what you're saying. It's intense. SEIs, man.
Okay. Okay, so tell me about your plans for the future and stuff. Are you aware of that? Are you constantly thinking of the future, or is that something in the back of your mind?
Well, it's interesting that you brought that up, because because it's the start of a new decade, and because I do bullet journaling, which has helped me become more organized. I just did a little reflection on the last 10 years of my life, how I was and how I want to be in the next 10 years and what I want to do. One of the biggest things I want to do in the next 10 years is to finish this series. My dream is that it'll affect a lot of people and will become a little bit more global as a humanity. because one of the biggest problems I think with the world that we live in is that we have all these different like segregated groups of people, and we don't work together to come to real solutions. And so we neglect things like, you know, recycling, which should be stupid easy, but it's stupid hard because of the way that the world is set up. So recycling and globalization is something that I really care a lot about, and I'd really like to see happen. So if my book can influence people to help make that a reality, that would be amazing. And I do have like an idea for a recycling company that I would like to get started. I don't know if I'll be able to get it started in the next 10 years, but hopefully I can, you know, find a group of people that can help me make it happen. Because honestly, I think that's the biggest thing that we need to fix in the world is our recycling management is so bad. Like we just throw away so much stuff.
So you threw out two things there that were the biggest problem in the world. One of them was the recycling program, and the second one was organizing people and getting people on board. So like, what's the priority there?
Which one's? Well,
which one's a bigger problem?
I guess it depends on, you know, what you think is going to happen, because so like say something like a plague were to hit today, I think if it were a mass plague, something like Ebola, but if it were to break out past the boundaries and to really spread, I don't know how well as a people we would be able to handle such an event. Like I feel like it could cause just like an insane amount of chaos that would you know, that's a fear of mine, is that the world will end because of like a plague or zombies or whatever, or an asteroid, whatever, stupid irrational fears. So like you could say that could be the reason that's more important, but you could also say that recycling is more important because in the long term, if we don't learn how to take care of our resources, we're going to run out.
Right. No, it's interesting. You were talking semi in a savior state there too.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Okay. It's going to be a bit more challenging than I thought.
I you know, and that's ultimately my goal, is to be hard to type, because I think personally that it's important to balance yourself out between all 8 cognitive functions and become functional at whatever you're trying to do. So that is I like when people have struggles typing me, honestly, because I'm not attached to being an ENFP. It's just the closest to what I can actually find. But I mean, you know.
What about your emotions and your feelings, and are you aware of them at all times? Do you know how you're feeling? Is that something that's, yeah? Are you aware of how other people are feeling?
So personal emotions and I have an interesting relationship, because some things I'm acutely aware of, but most of the time I'm not aware of the emotions that I was having until afterwards. So there'll be times, specifically like a few months ago, we had been hanging out. My boyfriend and I were hanging out with his friends, and I was just like very irritable. I didn't like how they were acting. Like I didn't like the situation that we were in. And you know, it didn't make sense because nothing that they were doing was inherently bad. It's just like my ability to handle my reactions to that was bad. So I had to like afterwards take a good like hour to just like write out my feelings, what was actually causing me to be so irritable, and to recognize the root cause. Because in the moment I'll just be reactive, and you know, I have to like take a step back alone to figure out how I actually feel.
What about understanding the why behind your feelings and stuff? What was making you irritable?
Well, I ended up finding out it had nothing to do with them, which is kind of what I had a feeling. And it was just like, we had just moved. I was feeling lonely. Like I was just feeling like I wasn't getting closer to my goals. I felt like I was going nowhere. And so like these kind of feelings were making it to where I couldn't like handle the negative feelings or negative emotions of other people. Like I couldn't be around it because it was just making me reactive. So it took a while to get through that. That's like right when I started picking up my YouTube again, which helped me feel less lonely because, you know, I got a community and stuff.
So what's cool is like you were talking about feelings like that in sort of a savior state as well. Like even though it seems like you weren't in touch with your feelings and stuff, that could be like the sleep, but like it is a savior state when you do talk about your feelings. Like it's not awkward. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
You're not awkward
Yeah.
about how you felt and stuff like that. It's just like obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. I've
Right.
always kind of had that kind of relationship to feelings, and I wish other people could have the same, and I wish that we could just talk them out and recognize the root cause, because this is just something that I've noticed.
Hmm.
People with FE tend not to like to come to where the root cause of the feeling is. They just want to like say it and be validated for the emotion and move on because something about like getting it out helps them or something. That doesn't work
Hmm.
for me. I like when somebody tells me their emotions, I immediately want to like fix and find the root cause, and no one with FE at least really wants to do that.
Really? Okay.
That
Where
I've
did you observe that from?
INFJ friends and
Okay.
FE
Interesting.
friends.
That's an interesting observation. Um, do you, what about you were talking about running meetings and getting people to do stuff. Is that hard for you to push on the tribe to make them work, make them act?
Uh, yeah, I want to make it to where they want to do it. Like that's my goal, is to,
Inspire?
convince them that they want to do it rather than just like force. I hate forcing people to do things. I hate making people like feel like they're doing something because they have to. And sure, like we have to do this work. Like we're gonna have to do it no matter what. I'm trying to make it as easy as it can be for you so that you're more likely to do it so that I can do my job. But actually one of my friends at work, she's much better at pushing, and she's like, we should be asking for like write-ups and we should be doing this, and I'm like, but I don't want to create like fear. I want them to do it because they want to do it.
Right. Uh-huh. What about your own desires and wants? Are you in touch with those about what at all times sort of thing? Are you aware of what you want to do?
In what context?
In context of, I don't know, your at like if someone asks you, do you want to go eat? Will you automatically know where you like to eat? Or if someone asks you, what do you want to do tonight? Or someone maybe your plans for the moment or what you want to do. Yeah.
I do have a good idea of what I want to do, like with personal projects that I'm working on. But when it comes to something trivial like eating or going out, I normally want to do whatever the other person wants to do,
Hmm.
because I'd rather not. Like if there's something that's like I really don't want to do it, I'll let them know. But like I like hanging out with them, so I'll do what they want to do because I'm not that picky when it comes to stuff like that. Like when it comes to figuring out where to go to eat, I'm sure I'll
Hmm.
find something that's manageable or that I like, um, or whatever. So really, but I just don't go out that much. I
What
don't
about in
know.
terms of getting offended from people, getting insulted, stuff like that?
You mean like they have said something that insults me personally, or
Personally, or like maybe someone's joking around with you and it sort of strikes a nerve. Like, is that does that happen?
that definitely does happen, more so in the past than it does now. I more so get offended when people ignore other people. I don't know how to say this, but like at work, say like we're ramping down, we're getting rid of people, and I felt like the way that it was being handled was really poor, and they weren't thinking about people as people, they were thinking of people as numbers. And I'm like, well, we're creating a bad image for ourselves, one, but also like think about all these individual lives that we have now messed with because we couldn't get our stuff together in time, etc.
Hmm. Okay. So let's say there's a problem in with people. Will people be able to work themselves out, or like that's something that's a bit more stressful? Or let's say there's a problem with a task or a job. Will the job work itself out? Will the government against some sort of rebels or something like that? Will that just work itself out? What'll work itself out more?
Hmm. What will just work itself out?
Yeah, people or things, I guess.
Honestly, I guess it depends how you look at it. It could be people or it could be things. It would depend on a lot of factors which one would actually happen. Depending on the situation, it could be one or the other. So like some situations I'll
The
look
whole
at
thing.
it some situations I'll look at it and like I just can't focus on those right now. I can't focus on those details. That'll work itself out. It's not my responsibility. Same with like people interacting with each other, but sometimes I feel like it is my responsibility. It just depends on the situation. Like there were two girls in my work who were in my team and they weren't getting along for whatever reason. That was my responsibility to step in and like get them to be on the same page as each other enough to work together and to do the things that they needed to do. I'm not sitting there trying to make them best friends. I just need them to work together all right. But other times it could be like, you know, changing the forms at our work so that they work more efficiently. No one else is going to do that, so I need to do it. So that is my responsibility, but maybe something that isn't necessary. I don't know. It just depends on whether or not it's my responsibility.
What's your responsibility in the situation?
It depends on the situation.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but like, yeah.
Can I get like an example situation? That'd probably be easier.
All right. Let's say people aren't getting along because of the system. What's your responsibility? To sort out the people or to fix the system?
The system.
Okay.
If the people aren't getting along because the system isn't working, fix the system. People will fix themselves.
People will fix. Oh, okay. Interesting.
I would think. Because, yeah, if you take out that factor and the people still don't get along, then we can address the people. But if the system is causing issues between the people, let's fix the system and then see how that changes the people issue.
All right, you're giving questionable answers here. It could go either way. And also that's good use of logic there too. Yeah.
Now you see why I have trouble deciding my own type.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Do you what about chaos? Does chaos bother you? When the doo-doo hits the fan sort of thing?
So I guess that just depends. So for example, this last few months at my work was really busy. We were hiring a lot of people. We grew really fast, and there were a lot of moving pieces. There were times when that became really overwhelming because I didn't know enough like basic information about the new things to be able to navigate those new things. But if I do have that base level of understanding and I can, you know, say, okay, this is what this does, this is what that does, then I love having a lot of things going on because I'm more productive when there's more stuff going on. And if I have to focus on one thing for too long, I get really bored and then it takes me a long time to do it. So like even last week, I tried writing a newsletter and I was like, oh, it'll take me 10 minutes to put it together. It took me like 2 hours for no reason because I'm just sitting there like, oh, maybe I could change this wording or like, oh, you know, maybe I'll just check the chat and oh, maybe I'll like look up some pictures. So
right. So you're outsourcing consume like that. Interesting. Do you feel comfortable telling us a little bit about your fears throughout your life?
Sure. I can start with my irrational, most impending fears, which is that of like a global catastrophe of some sort that like causes me some anxiety sometimes. Not as much now, but like when I was 16, I remember I used to look out the window and check to make sure there were no zombies coming to the door before I felt comfortable like going to sleep. I know it's ridiculous.
Wow.
And as I got older, it started to be like, there's going to be an airplane that falls onto my house right now, like, and I'm not going to be able to hear it or get away in time. So anytime I even heard an airplane fly overhead, I would have to look and watch it to know that it was far enough above my head to know that it wasn't going to land on me. And then once it was past the like danger zone, then I could relax.
Wow. That's interesting.
It's ridiculous. I know.
Yeah, it's also ridiculous, but it's also pretty cool and like weird. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, that's just like my main ridiculous fear. Sometimes getting in a car accident's a fear. Because I was in a car accident like 3 years ago. I was going like 10 miles per hour and I was trying to turn out of a parking lot. This guy was turning into a parking lot. But the way that his lights were shining at me, like I actually thought I was going to die. Time slowed down. I freaked out. I had a little bit of a panic attack. But I was fine. Like he just, totaled my car. We weren't going that fast or whatever. But ever since then, I've had a little like edginess with cars, but that's getting better. I'm trying to think like personal fears. I think like never accomplishing anything would be a personal fear, like to have all this potential and to like have all these things that I can do, but because I'm not focused enough on one thing, I'll never accomplish it. I think that's a fear.
Right.
Like with this story, like I could work on it for 50 years, and if I never publish it before I die, like what a waste of all that time I've just spent.
I don't know. What about your kids? They could publish it.
Maybe if I have
Your
kids.
grandkids. Sorry, that's just NI kicking in.
Yeah.
What about, do you feel responsible to clean your house, to organize the house, or do you think someone else should be doing that?
I really would prefer other people to do that.
Right.
Like in my current relationship, my boyfriend is like the cleaner one of the two of us. And because of him, I've become a lot cleaner. Like I just cleaned right before we started this thing. But like 6-7 years ago, I would have like I just let my house be nasty and I didn't even care. It was fine. But I was like like the relationship that I was in, the person I was living with, I was the one who felt responsible for cleaning because I knew they weren't doing it. But if I know someone else is going to do it, I don't have to clean. That's fine. You can do it.
Right. Do you feel like that's a big life struggle of yours, to keep on track in the sensory, to like paying bills on time, doing paperwork, stuff like that, or you haven't really ever had problems with that?
So in theory, that stuff is easy. And like
Right.
the way that my mom raised me, like she always let me see her checkbook. She would let me balance her checkbook sometimes. Like my dad would let me like handle his grading and stuff, just like doing
Wow.
this stuff. And like my mom would show me how she organized her grocery list, so I like could replicate that, and I learned a lot from that. And in theory, that stuff is really easy. So things like grocery shopping, I for the most part can keep on track and make sure that I get what I want and spend how much I want. But other things, like when it comes to tracking expenses, when it comes to doing stuff like that, it's a lot easier in theory. Like when I can think about it 4 months ahead, I got that. But when it comes to actually doing it in the moment, I don't got that.
Mm-hmm.
Paying bills on time, though, that's not as much of an issue because like I get paid the same amount. So I just like have a system. Like I just pay this on this day, this on this day. When I get paid, I just pay my bills right after the day I get paid. So I don't even think about having the money. So whatever's left over in my bank is what I have.
You explained that in a little bit of a savior state there too. So, like the whole SI thing was a bit savior-ish.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's interesting. Trying to think, the community's not helping. You guys don't have any other questions. Maybe here, someone thinks maybe you're TESE.
Oh, that'd
What
be.
do you think about that?
I mean, I could be.
Yeah, right. And then here we have another one, TESI.
Oh man, I don't know. I work with an ESTJ, and I mean we have a lot in common, but I don't know if I don't know.
Right. What about your cognitive functions? Do you see those as more evident, like those axes at least?
Yeah, I feel very confident that I'm not SE or NI.
Like
I think
Delta Quadra?
Yeah, I think I can access the beta quadra functions, but it takes a lot of focus and it doesn't last for very long. And I'm not good at very much so at that. I definitely think that the delta values make a lot of sense with me, like all of it. Just that seems more like it, and I've thought about if I'm like extroverted feeling or not, but I don't think so.
Right.
I just that doesn't seem right to me. Megan.
We have a guest here saying hi. Okay, so How do you see your identity? What kind of person are you? Is that something that's you're struggling with figuring out who you are, or is that something you're secure about?
Um, I don't know. That's a tough question. Like, I feel like that's always been kind of like, who are you? I guess it depends like what context you're asking that question, because in some ways I can feel very confident about what my answer would be. Um, but other times, like, I don't know. I guess I would want more context before I can answer
Yeah.
that.
No, I was getting a little demon state there, but yeah, I didn't give you enough context. um, okay, so are you aware of the kind of thing, the kind of person you are, the kind of person you want to be, what kind of things you like?
I put a lot of conscious effort into trying to figure out the kind of person that I want to be and the kind of way that I have been and how I can change who I was to be who I want to be. Um, like I said, like with my bullet journal, I did the 10-year thing, but every year I still do a reflection of the last year and what I want the next year to be like. That's something I've done for quite a while, is like reflect on the past and try to see how I want to be moving forward. Um, and what I want to accomplish, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I
What
can't
kind
think.
of
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, what kind of sorry, I interrupted.
It's okay.
What kind of things will in the moment will you sort of screw up on and then realize it only afterwards, like in the back end you'd sort of
Saying something that's insensitive.
right?
I used to be okay. So I'm referencing the same job a lot, but when I was newer to the job, which was about 3 years ago, um, this girl created a job aid and she sent it out to like everyone at the site. And one of the biggest things that it said was like, this thing right here is an error. And I I sent her like this long paragraph about, how it's not an error. It's supposed to be that way. And you're setting negative connotations to people. And when they see it, they're going to think it's a bad thing. And we don't need to think it's a bad thing. They just need to do the steps. And like, she didn't like that. She didn't like me after that.
Okay.
Oh, and
Is that something that you're a bit traumatized from, like the not liking you? Is that something that
that
hurts when people don't like you?
that has been a recurring theme like my whole life actually. Me thinking that we're getting along, me like just, getting along with somebody, hey, we have common interests, like, hey, we're doing this, like, hey, I can help you with that. And then later they tell me like, oh, all those people didn't like you, or,
Oh wow.
but you thought you were being helpful, they just thought you were being a B word. And
Oh wow. Really?
like
Okay.
when I worked at Starbucks, I would tell people like, "Hey, there's an easier way to do this." I was thinking I was being helpful, and lo and behold, they thought I was being controlling and trying to tell
Wow.
them how they should do things. And I'm just like trying to make it easier so it's not as difficult for them, or it doesn't take as much time, or it doesn't make as much of a mess. I'm like, we can be more efficient. But
Yeah, it's several times you've mentioned efficiency here. Y- do, okay, so like that recurring theme, is it something that like you've worked on and it's stopped happening more recently, or is it something that is still happening every so often?
It's definitely a lot better. I think having the same job and moving up and being in a higher position with the same people, and getting and like seeking out feedback. The thing that annoys me though is when I seek out feedback, I often get positive feedback. People tell me all the things that I did good, and I'm like, I don't need the stuff that I did good. I need the stuff that I did bad so I can work on it. I can't work on being good.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
I'm okay if I'm good. I can't do anything to make it any better. So what's the point of you telling me this feedback? It's not helping me. I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted by these comments.
Yeah, you're seeing all the comments. Okay, so we got some nice FE there, spreading the love.
Thanks,
Thank you
Megan.
very much, Megan. So yeah, we got a lot of TE here. TE.
Yeah.
Again, save your TE somewhere.
This is why
Masculine T.
this is
Not
why
savior, masculine.
often thought that I might be play lead, or it's definitely higher up there for sure.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Um, no, then also like when I asked you about your identity, you sort of went into kind of like a demon state, which is weird because like you were in a savior state when you were talking about your emotions and how you were feeling and stuff,
Hmm.
which could just be EJ openness. It could just be down to that, like just
Hmm.
being open about. Because I've seen other EJs, even TE users being. Yeah. And we have a joke here from Andrew. He says he doesn't drink tea. Great.
I don't drink tea either.
Yeah.
Coffee all the way.
Um, so maybe tell me about seeing people as stupid and efficiencies and stuff like that. Do you like would you get offended if someone said you were stupid, or like is that just something you throw around as well, saying no, you're stupid, sort of thing?
If someone said I was stupid, I would want to know what I did that made them think that, because I know
Right.
that I'm not.
Right. Okay. Oh
um,
wow.
and I struggle to think that anyone's stupid. I really think that most people have the ability to do just about anything. Um,
Very political answer there. Okay.
we were just, I don't know, like it's always been my goal to encourage other people and to make them feel capable and make them feel like they can do it. Um, so just hearing that someone would call someone else stupid just kind of bothers me just in general.
Right. Okay. But like when you see inefficiencies, that's okay to call that out, sort of thing. Like it's not the person, but it's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I know now that I'm older and more wise, that people don't like when you just call out what they've done wrong, because, they might have a valid reason for why they thought that that was a good idea, and you have to give them the space to explain why they've, done X, Y, and Z. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's always been pretty easy for me to be like, you're wrong.
Right. So okay, I guess I'm under the microscope here too. Anyone who's showing a little emotion,
Anyone who shows a smidgen of emotion
right?
definitely
No, and
feels.
I right away I saw that you were feminine feelings, whatever that,
Mm,
wherever it is in your stack. Like you're,
interesting.
what's that?
Oh, that's interesting, because some people typed me and they thought that I was feminine TE.
Feminine TE. Okay.
But you're saying the opposite.
Well, I'm just seeing your emotions are feminine. Like you're very giggly, you're very movable on the emotions. Like yeah, they're just like right there. Yeah. So that's my perspective. I could be just not knowing anything as well. So
Hey, I would trust your opinion a lot more than a lot of people. I mean, you've talked to like how many people? 100 and plus, 150 people on your channel just in the last
but
like 10 months.
that's like over the period of like that 10 months, that's all the people I've talked to in my life.
Oh,
Is
shut
when
up.
I came out of my cocoon and just started talking to people.
There you
Okay.
go.
Right. So what about insecurity? Do you feel like you're insecure? Confidence?
I definitely struggle with insecurity a lot. That's something I actually was thinking about, is that even though if I like pretend like I'm more secure, I actually am pretty insecure. It's getting better, just like with anything. Like the more you recognize that it's happening, the more you can work on it. Um, I'm trying to think like what kind of things I'm actually insecure about.
Yeah.
Uh, People liking me, because I can't always tell if they actually like me. I think that's something, because I've been scarred a lot when I was younger. Um, I
Right.
definitely would say that's one of the biggest things, is people pretending that they like me when they really don't. That's an insecurity. Um,
Hmm.
just people lying in general. Like, have they lied to me? Like, can I trust what they're saying? That's an insecurity too. Um, I don't know if that might not be really necessarily an insecurity. I don't know.
No, yeah. What about like your self-confidence and stuff? Is that sort of hurt your self-confidence? Or you feel pretty confident to do whatever?
I'd like to say that I'm confident, and sometimes I feel really confident, and other times I don't. So it just really depend, like, because there can be other factors that are affecting my confidence at the time too. Um, Like, I really believe in manifestation, and I think sometimes, like, I can start off my day with a bad mode, like a bad thinking, a bad mindset, um, and then that'll cascade into being more insecure that day, whereas when I start off, not worrying too much and I have a lot of positive intentions for the day, then I don't really necessarily worry as much. Like,
Mhm.
someone asked me, I think it was Andy, she was like, "Are you nervous about this interview?" And I'm like, "Why would I be nervous?"
Right.
Like, just talking, so
Right. Save your play, I guess. Mhm. So like anyways, you put yourself double activated play. I can get behind that
yeah, I definitely
for sure.
think it's up there for sure.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Do you have any message you want to leave to the tribe? And maybe we'll sort of dive more into your type over the next week or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, for the tribe, I guess just be kind, learn from my mistakes. Don't just tell people they're wrong. Try to figure out why they think the way that they think so that you can actually convince them of something instead of just like beating them over the head with your I'm right stick. I'm right in the
Right.
and there's
Is that
nothing.
something you struggled with, you feel? Like figuring out the motivations behind people more? Like why they think what they are? That's something you had to get to?
I think so. I don't know if I put that much thought into it when I was younger, like what people's intentions were behind things. Um, uh-oh. Sorry,
Yeah,
one.
I'm gonna scroll up right here and see. Um, Go ahead, keep going. I'm
Oh, I
I'm
lost
gonna
my
take it
train
from there.
of thought.
Sorry, yeah.
I got distracted. Just be good to each other. You know, I could go on a whole soapbox about society and what I want for society, but I mean,
Sorry, 123. Here's the question.
what book have I found most helpful in regards to being an ENFP? Um, I haven't really read anything that's like ENFP specific in terms of books. I definitely did a lot of research on how they
What
never
books have helped you in your life?
what books have helped me. I don't know. I I can't say that any books necessarily straight
Okay.
out helped me. I'm sorry. I can't answer that question. I
Yeah.
apologize.
What about this one? I found a couple. Um,
How did I become so efficient? Um, I feel like to a certain extent, you can recognize if something's working or not because you see how much energy you put into it and you see how much you're getting out from it. And, you just pay more attention to that and you recognize where you're wasteful and where you're not getting things done and you work on those.
yeah. I'm getting a lot of energy dominance from you as well. Like you seem to be dealing with energy. Like, is that something you're aware of as well? Like your energy levels throughout the day, how much energy you're putting into things, like you were just saying.
Uh, so yes and no. Sometimes I'm not very aware, but I don't know. Am I aware of how much energy I put into things? You're asking me hard questions, man.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, I used to just do things and do things and do things and never pay attention to how much energy I was
Okay. All
using.
right. Okay. So
And
I could be wrong then.
I
Yep.
would just say yes to everything all the time. And now I'm a lot more conscious of that. Yes, remember to recycle.
Right. Okay. So check out Michelle's YouTube channel. Do you have something else you want to promote? I guess.
Just check out my channel. Thanks.
Yeah.
Check out other interviews on his channel.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming out. Great talk, and have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.